This young woman walking out of this hotel in Myrtle Beach is 17-year-old Britanee Drexel. The New York native had left to spend a spring break with some of her friends. Shockingly, this would be the last piece of footage ever captured of Britanee alive. The true crime community would come up with many theories as to what happened with the young girl. But after a long 13 years, the truth would eventually be revealed. We would like to send our condolences to the family and loved ones of Britanee Drexel. Britanee Drexel, a fun-loving 17-year-old teenager, had just come into spring break. Her friends would encourage her to come to Myrtle Beach to party with them. Knowing her parents wouldn't let her go, she lied to them about where she was going, telling her mother she was staying with some friends. Britanee would make the journey from Rochester, New York to the popular party spot in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. She would arrive on April 25, 2009 and was ready to party and have the time of her life. But little did she know that she would encounter one of the sickest, most evil people on the planet. That night, around 8 p.m., Drexel left her friends at the Bar Harbor Hotel beachfront to walk 1.5 miles south down South Ocean Boulevard to visit a longtime friend who was staying at the Blue Water Resort. Security cameras at the resort showed her arriving. Drexel was carrying a beige purse and wearing a black and white tank top, flip-flops, and shorts. The cameras captured her leaving around 8:45 p.m. Drexel was texting her boyfriend John Greco, who had stayed in the Rochester area because of work commitments. She can be seen walking down the road, appearing to be texting on her phone. Around 9:15 p.m., her text suddenly stopped, and Greco began calling her friends in Myrtle Beach to see if they knew where she was or what had happened. When those efforts failed, Greco called Drexel's mother, Dawn, who had not known that her daughter was in Myrtle Beach until she was contacted. Dawn called the Rochester police, hoping that they could establish communications with their counterparts in South Carolina. Repeated calls and texts to Britanee's phone would go unanswered. Authorities would launch an investigation. They located the security camera footage from the Blue Water Resort and found a friend she had visited. The last person who had reported seeing Drexel before she had left was identified as Peter Brozowitz, a 20-year-old nightclub promoter she had known from the Rochester area and who was also vacationing in Myrtle Beach. Police interviewed Brozowitz and the men with whom he was sharing his hotel rooms. While no leads were obtained from these interviews, investigators would state no one has been ruled in or out after the interviews. Police searched Drexel's hotel room, finding all of the clothes she had packed, but not her purse or cell phone. The phone's network pings were tracked on a path 60 miles south of Myrtle Beach, in an area along the US Route 17 near the Georgetown-Charleston county line. The pings had stopped abruptly early on the morning of April 26. Areas near there and around Myrtle Beach where a body might have been disposed of would then search for the next 11 days. Britanee's mother, Dawn, would drive to the area the following day and start posting missing persons flyers in an attempt to locate her daughter. She would eventually relocate there permanently to be close to where Britanee had last been seen, and to better monitor the progress of the investigation. With no leads and a lot of speculation about the case, the friends that saw Britanee on the night would be accused of her disappearance. Much time would pass by, and it seemed as though this case might never be solved. Britanee's mother, Dawn, and Peter Brozowitz would make an appearance on the popular TV show Dr. Phil, where they would have several confrontations. Brozowitz often expressed frustration at the damage to his reputation that had been caused from this case. Wild theories started coming up, like maybe she had just run away. One individual, whose name had come up in conversation between detectives but had never been investigated, was a man by the name of Raymond Moody. Moody was a convicted child sex offender who had been released from prison in 2004 after serving a 21-year sentence. He was a suspect in many other cases in the Georgetown area, especially that of a 28-year-old named Crystal Souls, who had mysteriously disappeared in 2005. However, no concrete evidence was ever found against him. A search into Moody would reveal that he was in the Myrtle Beach area in 2009 with his girlfriend Angel Vows at the same time Britanee was. Police would bring Angel in for questioning in 2011, 2 years after the crime, and she would openly reveal to investigators that she believed he was involved because of his past convictions.
I know this. So he has said he would like to snatch a girl, and of course he always says teenager, but at this point I'm beginning to think children. But he wants to snatch them, and he wants to have a place to take them. He said he wants to set up a place in the woods and scope some people out. And then when the time is right and nobody's around, he can snatch them and do what he wants for hours, because he says that they mean nothing to him. They're just like a toy in his toy box.
Angel knew of Raymond's previous convictions and that he was dangerous, but was happy to continue being his girlfriend. 7 long years would pass by since Brittanee's disappearance, when in 2016, an unexpected break in the case would occur. New developments would come out from a bond hearing for Timothy Deshawn Taylor, an inmate then serving time in the state prison on an unrelated charge. FBI investigators had contacted some of his close associates to ask them questions and would speak to Taquan Brown. Taquan Brown was another South Carolina inmate who had begun serving a 25-year sentence for manslaughter. Upon probing him, the FBI agent had learned some critical information. Taquan had said that in 2009, shortly after Drexel disappeared, he had gone to visit a McClellanville stash house to give money to Timothy Deshawn Taylor's father. As he walked through the house, Brown had said he saw Taylor sexually assaulting Drexel with others present. He continued to the backyard, where he found Taylor's father and made his payment. As they talked, Brittany ran from the house, but was soon recaptured. Brown said he saw Taylor take her back inside. He then heard 2 gunshots, which he assumed were the sounds of the young woman being killed. Brown claims to have seen the body wrapped in a rug being removed from the house, then dumped into one of the many alligator ponds in the area. Investigators would search the alligator ponds, but the searches would come up empty. Police would then take a closer look at Timothy Deshawn Taylor. He had committed an armed robbery in a McDonald's in 2011 and had just finished an 18-month probationary period. Taylor would deny having anything to do with the crime. In an interview with a local TV station, he would attempt to defend himself.
I may as well start with the obvious question. Did you kill Britanee Drexel?
No, sir. I did not kill Britanee Drexel.
Were you involved in the kidnapping of Britanee Drexel?
No, sir, I was not.
Were you with Britanee Drexel the night she disappeared in April of 2009?
No, sir, I was not with her.
Had you ever met her, or what did you know about her?
I never met her personally or physically. The only thing I've known is from what I've been seeing on TV and the bulletins and what the FBI has been telling me so far.
Taylor would take a lie detector test in 2018 to prove his innocence, but would fail the test. However, detectives believed that the story Taquan Brown had given them was a complete fabrication. They would pull away from that part of the investigation, believing it was a false confession. 10 years had now passed, with investigators still working on the case, but not able to build any solid evidence. They long suspected Moody committed the crime, but they had to prove it. A task force assigned to the case would contact Angel again, who is now a nurse at the MUSC University Hospital in charge of caring for others. She would agree to come in for another interview, and investigators were keen to see if she could provide any further information. They would press for information, which would lead to her walking out of the interview. Officers would again convince her to come back and chat, and she would start to divulge some information.
I know all I can tell you, because I don't know where he was. I don't. He did have my vehicle. I don't know where he was. I don't know where he was. I do know he called me and he sounded upset and all this kind of stuff. He didn't say anything about why he was. I said, I don't know. I don't know. Do I think there's a possibility? Of course there's a possibility. I'm not stupid. I do know that. But I don't know anything to say, yes, he did. I don't know. But do I have to sometimes, because I don't know where he was. He wouldn't tell me where he was. And he did have a couple scratches on. So I don't know. I don't know.
He did that night he had a couple scratches?
Well, he's had some scratches, and I was trying to remember if it was from me or something. I can't. I can't tell you that he did, because I don't know that. I can't tell you that he didn't.
Angel denies any involvement in the crime, but would go on to say that she remembers Moody coming back on the night of Brittanee's disappearance with scratches on his face. She had asked him how it happened, but he would tell her to mind her own business.
I do know that he had my vehicle, and that's one of the reasons I was meeting, was to trade vehicles out.
That night, remember it being that night?
That night, yes.
Angel had just given investigators an interesting piece of evidence. She would leave work early on April the 25th and swap cars with Moody. Investigators would make Angel aware that they know her phone and credit card were around the area and the time where Brittanee was believed to have been taken. She would deny being with Moody, saying that she may have left the phone and card in the vehicle Moody was driving when they swapped. With the pressure beginning to build on Angel, she would offer up the possibility of installing a bug in her residence. This would allow her to ask Moody about what happened and have it recorded. But she also believed he wouldn't fall for it.
You had mentioned a bug. Is that something you think would work? Is that something that you think you could do?
Oh yeah, I can do it.
Yeah.
What if it was raised, like, obviously the anniversary, right? The 13-year anniversary was 2 days ago.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So how would he respond to any discussion of that? If he saw it on the news?
No, he don't. He don't talk about it.
After the interview concluded, Angel would return home, not aware Moody and herself were under FBI surveillance. Some strange behavior was being observed by the surveillance team. Raymond Moody was seen going in and out of the house and to his car, almost like he was trying to get rid of some evidence. They would let investigators know he would obtain a search warrant to search the property the following day. Authorities would find and confiscate 3 phones, 2 tablets, a disposable camera, and many USB drives that contained pictures. Raymond Moody would finally be brought in to be questioned on May 4, 2022, over a decade after the crime was committed. A 76-year-old man at this stage, Moody was presented with a mountain of evidence against him. The story he would give would be completely different from the story Angel had told investigators just over a week ago. He was ready to confess, and investigators were ready to listen.
The only person who ever told this story to is my lawyer. Angel never even knew the real story. She never knew. Anyway, when I was going down Ocean Boulevard, we were going along pretty slow driving. I was driving, and pretty walking speed, and I saw the Drexel girl walking along on the sidewalk, and I was smoking pot. She noticed that, walked over to the door and said something about that smells like good weed. I said, yeah, you want some? Sure. Get in. She hopped right in the back, right, a problem. And we smoked the weed, went down the boulevard, and we're just small talk. Angel's not really saying anything. We're smoking the pot. And I said, hey, you want to party a little bit with us? We're going to get some cocaine, you know? She said, sure. So we started driving. We were just driving around, smoking, talking. And went right into Georgetown. Went right to a spot where we used to camp out down by the river. And we went down there. And I was by myself with her, because Angela left for a while to go see her son. As things got out of hand, and I panicked, and she panicked, and I strangled her.
Moody had hastily taken Drexel's body and hidden it in a boat landing before Angel would return. When Angel arrived back, she would ask where the 17-year-old girl had gone, and Moody would say that she had been picked up by friends. At around 1 a.m. that night, Moody would leave and return to Brittanee's lifeless body and bury her near where she was brutally murdered. Investigators would then ask Raymond to take them to the area where he had buried Brittanee. Moody would offer up locations on the events and where they happened, including where he sexually assaulted a young girl and eventually murdered her. After excavating the area for 2 days, investigators would come up empty and would call Moody in again with his lawyer to ask some questions.
Was her, like, her purse and her phone and stuff like that? Do you know where that's at? Are you able to tell us?
I got rid of that a long time
Did you
ago.
throw it on the woods, or do you recall what you did with her stuff?
Actually, I dropped it in the donation box at the Salvation Army, Georgetown.
All of her stuff, the phone included, and her purse,
Not
and
the
her.
phone.
What'd you do with where'd the phone go?
I threw the phone in the river.
Angel would return again with a lawyer this time and would give a proffer statement. A proffer statement is a written contract between a federal prosecutor and a defendant or person under criminal investigation, where the defendant agrees to provide the prosecutor with useful information. The statements they made will not be used against them in future criminal proceedings. Her story this time would match that of what Moody confessed to. The story from Moody and Angel were now beginning to match, with Angel now confirming that he had left late at night to return to the scene of the crime. Investigators would decide to excavate a wider area in search of Brittanee's body. It wasn't long before they located human remains, of which they believed to be Britanee Drexel. Dental and DNA analysis would confirm that it was in fact the body of the 17-year-old girl. Authorities would now hold a press conference to detail the public on their findings. Raymond Moody would waive his rights to a trial, and on October 19, 2022, would plead guilty to all charges. His sentence would be life in prison, with a further 2 consecutive terms of 30 years. Moody would make a statement.
I thought that was enough, but it wasn't. I was a monster. I was a monster then. And I was a monster. And I took Brittanee Drexel's life. And I don't have the words to express how horrible I feel. And I've felt ever since that day very, very sorry. That's all I've got to say.
The judge in this case, Pharrell Cothran Jr., would also make a statement about the case.
All products of the decisions we make in life. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people give up their long-term happiness for immediate pleasure. And you gave up a lot of people's long-term happiness for your immediate pleasure.
Angel would stand by Raymond Moody throughout all of the legal proceedings. To this day, she has not faced any legal consequences for her actions in this case. She is still employed as a nurse, in charge of the health and care of other vulnerable people. Raymond Moody will live and die at the Kirkland Correctional Institution in Richland County, South Carolina, where he is currently being held. This case brings into question how people with such extensive criminal histories are able to roam free within our society. A young girl, just looking to enjoy her spring break, and with her whole life in front of her, tragically met a monster who only cared for himself. Will stricter laws and punishments stop this sort of thing from happening? Let us know in the comments below. And that wraps up today's case. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, then check out one of these 2 other videos on screen that you may find interesting. We look forward to bringing you another worst case very soon.